Okay, well, I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
We ask that you,
I just can't do it.
Guys.
No, there's an investigation.
hey guys. 9 o'clock, everybody.
There's a helicopter.
Be sure and mute your cell phones for us. Okay, we are going to call the meeting to order, Lander County Commissioners meeting, Town Board of Battle Mountain and Austin Board of County Highway Commissioners for October 24th, 2019. And Art, if you would lead us in a salute to our flag, if you'd all rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A warm welcome to everyone that's joining us today. And we ask you now that we'd like you to join us with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Lander County Commissioners may break for lunch from 12 noon to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. We are going to begin with our Commissioners' reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended. And Commissioner Art, we'll start with you. Have you attended anything last couple
No
of weeks?
meetings, but I did forget one thing from the state lands meeting. A while back, NDOW put cutthroat trout in the Reese River at the headwaters. Within a couple of weeks, there was a lawsuit filed against ranching in the Reese River Valley. Ranchers were given notice that they had 72 hours to vacate their pastures. So, unintended consequences from something really, really good. Yeah, I forgot that to report that last time, so. I don't know what every time you turn around, the ranchers are just getting dinged, so. That's something I forgot.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein.
So on the 18th, I did attend the NACO. Not a whole lot on there, I'm gonna leave it to Patsy to give us an update on the stage house.
I attended the Battle Mountain General Hospital board meeting. Most of the stuff was normal business, but the one thing that keeps coming up for discussion is the clinic in Kingston and what they're going to do with it. That's a huge issue. And
You know what? Excuse me. Without Brian, we totally forgot Austin.
Uh-oh.
How could I do
How
that?
could you do that?
Forgive me, I have no idea.
so I'll be
said
quiet till you
Kingston
get
and I
her on
went,
there.
Oh, no.
You're just too busy, Patsy.
Yes, I'm not used to doing this. Kathy, do you know how to do this?
I have no idea. Brian always
Kathy?
does it.
Oh, okay, we're gonna off the record for just a minute so we don't have to keep recording this.
Is that an open meeting violation, Patsy? Not calling Austin?
No, but it's really sloppy.
Guess I'll have to start over.
See how we depend on Brian?
Yeah.
We need this written down.
He looks at something every time.
2447 is the one we do.
Cute helicopter.
My mind is on other things.
That's what you do. Give me a ride. Throw me out. I'll go with you. Yeah.
Did you hear from Commissioner Sparks? Is he coming?
No.
He's gone.
Good morning, Austin. You were forgotten.
You didn't have to put it that way, Kathy.
Gee.
Everybody there? Okay.
Our apologies, we did the Pledge of Allegiance without you, so Brian isn't here this morning, we weren't on top of it, so our apologies. We're gonna bring us back to order, and Kathy is giving us a report on the Kingston Clinic.
Yeah.
The Bad Mountain Hospital. Thank you. Go
So,
ahead, Kathy.
Yes, so, the idea is to, I think, to try to turn the clinic over to rural, what is the name of that? We were just talking.
Nevada Rural Health Centers?
Nevada Rural Health Centers. We didn't hear back from them to see if they would take it or wouldn't take it for telemedicine. But I am adamant that we do something, the minimum of telemedicine there. So that's kind of a contentious thing that's going on, that I believe that they deserve, 1 or 2 days of telemedicine, just like Austin has 1 or 2 days. Even though they don't show up for 1 or 2 days, we at least have it set up that they can receive the telemedicine for 1 or 2 days. So that is something that I'm working diligently on to make sure that Kingston has some type of health care there. So we trudge forward and get that figured out. So that's all I have.
Thank you. And the clinic, the new clinic is coming along?
Oh, yes, thank you. And the new clinic should be, I think if it's not already open, will be open shortly, and it really is very, very nice. They had to redo the sidewalks and going up and make everything ADA accessible, so they've done a very nice job.
But it's
on
not
that.
open yet.
To my best of my knowledge, it is not, but I don't think it is. And maybe, I don't know if anybody's
very
gone to the
soon.
clinic.
If
If not, it's, have you?
I went there.
So you've been in there? So yeah, then it's been within the last week or so that it's been opened up, so. I haven't been in there, and they hadn't said anything at the last meeting, so yes, it is open, but it's not, it's very nice in there. I've been in there, so,
Thank
and
you.
that's it.
Appreciate that. On October 14th, I did attend the Airport Advisory Board meeting in Austin. Fortunately, Kim was approved as our new board member, so well, at least we could have a meeting because our chair was unable to make that. We're concerned over some of the water right now, that we're kind of checking everything out. It seems like we have some miscalculations or something to do with how much water that we have been using. And also, we've got to stay on top of our permit. So they're working on that one right now. On the 15th, I did attend the Wildlife Summit in Carson City. That was presented by NDOW and NDOT. And that was so interesting. It's all regarding our wildlife, basically. And the quote was that the cost is $8 billion a year. That's with a B. $8 billion a year just running over wildlife. And that doesn't even include some of the EMS responses and such of the people. So we're talking not only fatalities for our citizens, we're talking, of course, a lot of fatalities for the wildlife and such. So with that kind of money, they decided they certainly should be doing something to prevent this, anything they possibly can. So for the last decade, they have been working really a lot, and well, actually for more than that, but the last decade, especially in the western states. Nevada certainly has stepped up. I think we almost have 20 overpasses and underpasses. Some of you are familiar with the ones on 93 on the Elko, because there's a lot of actually antelope and deer that's their migration pattern. So we're talking thousands of deer that come down through there. So they actually have a couple over there. They have, they're doing another one in Wells. They're doing a big one between Tonopah and Las Vegas, right at that Spring Mountain area, which is really bad. And they have several that you probably don't even are aware of. If you've gone to Carson City, right around Virginia City, they actually have an underpass for the horses there. And they've got two with the new USA Parkway. So they've been working very, very hard to do that. And they said, if we continue to, we certainly, for $8 billion on the money we can save, even though the underpasses and overpasses are expensive, it's just what we have to do for every reason. And so that was a very knowledgeable summit of what they were doing. Let's see, on the 17th, we met with a couple gentlemen, Judy and I both met with a couple gentlemen regarding the Nevada State Rail Plan. And they, excuse me, they're with a railroad financial company that is funding a lot of this, and they told us that the state had approved the plan, and they're looking for different opportunities of helping counties or even private corporations that wanted to do extra rail, because one train saves 27 trucks on the road, and it's much less expensive to truck by train, to be like that, to truck by train, to package by train, to send your materials and such by train than it is over the road. So it was a very interesting meeting. There wasn't anything we could do right here, but it certainly is our future of things that may be able to be put together, if not certainly close to us in the whole state. On the 18th, I did have a NACO meeting, as Commissioner Allen said. That was excellent. There's several things I did want to highlight for you. First of all, the opioid lawsuit is still hot and heavy. Not only is there a federal one and a state one and all the individual ones the counties have done, but that will be back on our agenda again, because we do have to take some action. Either pull out of the federal one because we're automatically included, or whatever we decide to do. So that will probably be on the next agenda. NACO is holding a roundtable discussion with regarding the Nevada Supreme Court decision mandating jury trials for our justice courts on domestic violence. So we are holding a roundtable, and I believe our executive director is attending that.
Actually, Liz is gonna go, on behalf of.
Who's gonna go?
Liz Burrell. She's gonna go as
Our
for the
HR,
DA's
okay.
office as
Great.
well as the HR side.
Great, because we need the representation, most certainly. The other thing was, and I had mentioned it before, NACO was putting together an actuarial study on the Medicaid costs to the different counties. And the interesting thing on that is that it keeps going higher and higher, the non-federal share. And Lander County right now is at 2019, $338,178 is our assessment that we pay for our Medicaid folks. That's the non-federal share. Compared to that, Clark County is over 19,455,000 and some. But the key there is they really don't know why they can't give us the actuarial report back to us on how this is being figured. So NACO's been looking at it some time and wanted to go ahead with the actuarial study. Clark County is going to be paying for most of it, of course, because they're thrilled that we're going to handle this on behalf of all the counties. And NACO pledged $10,000 at the last meeting to complete the study. So that will be excellent. I don't know what kind of a reduction that might be, and if that will be one, but at least we'll know why, and the accountability will be there, and that's important. Let's see, the other one was on the 23rd in an RDA. Yesterday, our meeting on that, and that was very interesting. We actually did a marketing information. We had 5 different marketing people that came to us because we want to do dedicated marketing. And dedicated marketing on the internet is very expensive, and it can run anywhere from $3,000 up per month once you've got it in. And an RDA decided that we needed that for rural Nevada. We put it in our budget, and yesterday we decided on one of the groups that's going to go forward for us. The other thing is, coming up, of course, we have, naturally our celebration tomorrow, right, for 150th, and our checker tournament coming up on the 2nd of November. And with that, I will go directly into staff reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended, and go to our executive director, Keith.
So, several months back, we joined into a PILT lawsuit, a payment in lieu of taxes lawsuit. And we did receive a check back on that, and, we were underpaid for 17-18 fiscal year. So we got a check for $26,100, out of that lawsuit. It was a $5 million settlement, and that was Lander County's cut. A little bit about the airports, I talked about it last time. The East Apron expansion, we'll be getting into some discussions with the FAA on the additional $2 million. Once we know, or I know we have that secured, we'll be back to ask for the match on that. We didn't budget for it, so that would be something we have to talk about. The Austin Airport, the project there, they're continuing with their environmental impact study. It should be completed here shortly, and we can start to move forward with that design. The flu plot was on October 16th. We actually ran out of shots, so it was successful. Part of the problem we ran out of shots is we didn't get all that we ordered. So next year we'll order a little earlier and try to get it all.
Do we have more coming in?
Yes, we do.
When?
Let me see. And as Commissioner Waite said, the Fall Festival is tomorrow. I did attend with Liz Barella and Bert Ramus a pool pack leadership conference last week in Carson City. Very beneficial training program. I don't see John Sherby here, so I'm going to tell you we did get our appraisal on our golf course. The appraisal, and then when John gets here, maybe he'll go into it a little more, but it came in at $431,000 for the county to buy it. The last 2 fiscal years, or maybe it was just the last fiscal year, we put aside $300,000 for the purchase of the golf course. So we'll have to look at, if the commission decides they want to purchase it, we'll have to look at some additional funding to do that purchase. I do have a call today with Commissioner Ancho with Lee Bonner of NDOT to talk about the truck backup in front of the Maverick station. We have that call at 1 o'clock today. So hopefully we can start looking towards some mitigation of that backup. That's it.
When will the-
NP Energy. Talking to Kingston, what we're doing on that.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you know. We're talking about that franchise deal.
Keith,
Yes.
when will the flu shots be in?
I'll have to get a hold of Brandy and see.
Thank you. We move into public comment. This is for non-agendized items only. Persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend to make comments on any non-agenda item on the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. Do we have any public comment today? Austin, any public comment?
No comment.
Thank you. Move down to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action without extensive discussion. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed, and acted upon separately during the meeting. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's Office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal charge. We have number 1, approval of October 2019 agenda notice. Number 2, approval of May 23rd, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 3, approval of June 27th, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 4, approval of July 11th, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 5, approval of July 25th, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 6, approval of August 8th, 2019 meeting minutes. I don't have a number 7, so I'm going to take that 8 down there and put number 7, approval of September 19th, 2019 meeting minutes. And then that would be number 8 next, approval of October 10th, 2019 meeting minutes. And then number 9 would be the approval of payment of bills. Unfortunately, we have not received any meeting minutes, so all those will come out. The approval of payment of bills, I do need to pull out. So we just need a motion to approve actually number 1, October 24th, our agenda notice today.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Kathy made the motion and Judy seconded that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes. On the approval of the payment of bills, which is number 9, I do have 2 in there for reimbursement on my travel. I need to pull out check number 205150 for $102 and 205261 for $129.92. So if I could have a motion to approve all the other bills minus those 2.
So moved.
Patsy, there's one in there for me as well.
Oh, is there one?
Yes.
I missed that, Judy, thank you.
205123.
205123.
Yes.
Okay, we'll pull that one out. So the motion is to approve all the bills minus those 3. Kathy made the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Judy seconded that. Anything else on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, the next motion then would be for check number 205150 and 205261, which is mine.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Judy made the motion, Kathy seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, I abstain. Thank you. And the next one is for motion number, check number 205123.
I make a motion to pay.
Second.
Thank you, Kathy made the motion and Art seconded that. That's for Judy's check, 205123. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I abstain.
Thank you. Moving down to commissioners, number 1, county manager, update from the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, on various projects within Lander County.
I see John's here, so.
Morning, John.
Good morning. Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, John.
Good morning.
My name is John Sherby. I'm the field manager for the Mountain West Field Office. And at the request of Keith, I'm here to provide a number of updates that are important to the county. So I'll start off with the mining projects that we've got going. We've got a number of large projects within the county. Nevada Gold Mines project, the Cortez Hills project has been ongoing since the mid-90s and has been expanding since that time. We've recently issued a plan amendment approval on September 9th that was a significant expansion of that project. It was September 9th, and after that, normally we go through a 30-day appeal process, and we did not receive any appeals, and right now there's been no litigation. So that's always good news for us and the company. The more significant part of this project is that prior to this permitting effort, we did issue the Battle Mountain District Manager, Doug Furtado, did issue a new district policy that was consistent with the secretarial order, what we call Secretarial Order 3355, which was direction, of course, from Washington that was desiring a quicker and permitting time frame and smaller environmental documents. So the policy that was issued from this district adhered to those requirements and significantly shortened the permitting time frame. So it was one of the first projects, or probably the first project that went through that process, And it received a lot of attention at the Washington level as much, it was important to the Washington that the Secretary of Interior has been out here numerous times, most recently in July, to check in and see how things were going, and he was very impressed with how things went. So that's good news for everybody. The important part of that policy for Lander County, as far as that goes, is it requires it emphasizes early engagement with local, state and local governments. So we'll be using that here forward to solicit input early on from the county, get the county involved if they desire to be involved in any, not just mining projects, but any of our permitting projects within Lander County. So speaking of that, we've got some new projects that are starting, mining projects. After the Deep South project at Cortez Hills, they're moving on to their next expansion called the Gold Rush project. We're engaged with the company to key in on baseline studies, environmental studies. So we're about a number of months out before we'll be soliciting input from the county if they have any desire to be involved in that. The Gold Rush project is a new project, but it's coincident with the eastern boundary of the Cortez Hills project, which means it's entirely in Eureka County. However, there's still going to be some socioeconomic impacts and analysis that will involve Lander County. The next near the Cortez area is the Robertson project. It's a new expansion. It's an old mine area, but the Nevada Gold Mines does own that property, and they're planning an expansion of that, so that'll be coming up concurrent with the Deep South project. And again, that'll be entirely in the Lander County, and we'll be soliciting engagement with the county at the appropriate time. The Phoenix project, as we know, went through an expansion. We approved that expansion about a year ago, September of 18. Since then, it's been business as usual. We haven't received any additional permits or amendments for that project. Halliburton's got a project called Scruffy Oz, and that's just north. That's a newer project. It's north of the Miller's Pit. They've been in baseline development, baseline studies, environmental studies for quite some time, so they're ready to move that forward. And again, we'll be asking the county for participation. Hecla's project, the Fire Creek project, located north of Crescent Valley, the town of Crescent Valley, is entirely in Lander County. They've been business as usual for quite a few years, but they have been talking about a fairly significant expansion out there as well. So we're at the very early planning stages for that. We've got a number of landscape projects we're working on, mostly with sage grouse. One's called the BEA, the Bank Enabling Plan, Bank Enabling Agreement, that was put into effect by Barrick, and that was a plan to, it was coincident with the sage grouse plan back in 2015. It was our own sage grouse plan. There's a little bit in Lander County, most of that's in Eureka County, but it is a landscape restoration plan that we've been working on. A similar landscape restoration plan is called Toyabe Fingers. That's in Lander County as well, and that's just to improve mostly a cheatgrass monoculture. So we'll be doing some restoration to improve that habitat. On the land side, as I reported at the last meeting, the golf course is been moving forward. We've gone out with a 30-day comment period on the environmental assessment. That 30-day ends this Monday. We've also finalized the appraisal. I forwarded that to Keith, he has that, the appraisal, came back at, $431,000. So the process forward with the golf course, once this 30-day public, 30-day comment period ends, then we'll review any comments, and I'm not sure that we've received any. We'll review the comments, we'll need to respond to the comments and modify the environmental assessment if needed, and then make that available to the public. Once we finalize the EA, we'll issue what's called a finding of no significant impact. As long as the environmental analysis says that, we'll issue that finding of no significant impact. And then we'll also issue a decision. The decision will be an offer, a land sale offer to the county. At that, there's some additional timeframes that we need to adhere to, required timeframes. So that decision will be issued. We'll also be working on a package to have this federal action published in the Federal Register. It'll be it's an internal time process to get there. That time frame is unknown, but we'll push that package through our internally to get that processed or to get that published. That'll need to be, once that gets published, that'll start another 45-day comment period. It's a national publication on federal actions. Then after that 45-day period, there's another 15 days before we can make an offer, a formal offer to the county to pay. So there'll be the 45 days in the Federal Register notice. Then we wait another 15 days before the county can, if so desired, if you're moving this direction, then another 15 days after that, then the county will be, that's the time frame for the county to make a payment to the federal government for that land. Then that there's 180 days time frame for the county to make that payment at that time. And after that, once that payment is received, then there's another process that will be actually patenting the land over to Lander County. So it's probably about a 6-month process from here to get everything finalized.
So hopefully we can get this done before the next season.
Yes, it's looking
That
like
would
we
make
can.
things so much easier.
Yeah, it's looking like we can do that. Yeah. This has taken up a lot of our, of course, with the mining projects, the golf course. We haven't been able to spend a lot of time on the Mill Creek Campground expansion, but we're with where we are with the golf course, we'll be able to focus some time on that. So that's still in our queue. We're still looking at an expansion of the campground, improvement of the facilities, but that'll be an ongoing effort here for the next several months. And that, of course, we have to work through an environmental analysis. It's on BLM land, but we still have to do the environmental analysis as if it was a private party. Then on to range. I did talk about our Jenna, gave a briefing on our Jenna last time, and walked through the alternatives that were in the environmental assessment. Since that time, we received just a handful of comments on the EA itself. We did get a number of requests to extend the public comment period, which we did. We extended the public comment period an additional 30 days. So right now, the public comment period on the Argena environmental assessment will end November 20th. And then after that, it'll go through a decision-making process. And if there's any questions on that, Sam Alt, who's our land management specialist, could get into the details on the Argenta EA.
Thank you.
I have some questions, but not on that one,
Okay.
not on that issue, back on the golf course. So the water rights for the golf course, is that something that, if we, when we purchase the land, that we have to reapply for the water rights for the golf course, or are they transferable with?
It shouldn't have any bearing on the water right status.
I believe we have the water rights.
Yeah,
I don't think that the
So
water
I'll,
rights.
even though we don't own the property, we have the water rights?
yes.
Alright,
It's the only thing to be cautious of if you plan on putting new wells in or expanding the golf course, you probably need to identify your water right change.
okay.
Thank you, John.
Question, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
We are moving to agenda item number 2 under the Civic Center, update from the Battle Mountain Civic Center Supervisor. Did you read it? They didn't even give us your name.
Rita Rogers for the record,
Thank
for
you.
the Civic Center. I made out packets for you guys of what we've done the last 6 months at the Civic Center. We're starting to get back on our feet again, because we were shut down when we put our new floor in. So that kind of held up, you know, some of the, projects going on, you know, people renting it and stuff like that. And then with the mines getting together, we're now getting back on track of renting out the Civic Center and all of that. Might as well go into number 3 while we're at it. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'll open it up in just a minute.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, no.
And I give you the rental rate chart, along with the, breakdown of my calendar of what I've been going by.
Did you get a rate chart?
It should be on the back of your,
It's on number
It's
3.
probably under number
It's
3.
probably under number
okay.
3.
It's under number
You
3.
haven't opened number
Okay.
3 yet.
No,
okay.
yeah, I know when we had done the budget and everything, we had asked you to please come before us and give us a quarterly meeting, but if you didn't wanna come before us, just send it in, that's fine.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
that we do know what's going on quarter by quarter. No, not a lot of activity unfortunately, but, we appreciate knowing where we're at.
Yeah,
So-
because like I said, when we put the floor in, we were down about 6 weeks or better. So there was nothing.
What did you do for 6 weeks?
We took and just did the cleaning, and I did the landscaping out front. So we was working around the Civic Center, just not inside with people. So we were improving the outside of the Civic Center. And then at that time also, we was kind of over the Livestock Event Center at that time. So we'd go out there and help and get that improved and stuff out there while they were working on my floors. So we
Thank you.
stayed very busy. It was actually kind of nice to get other things done that needed to be done and all. So, but yeah,
Thank you.
it's
Number
going
3.
good now, so.
And if for anybody that hasn't seen the inside of the Civic Center for the Halloween, it's they've done a very nice job on it,
Thank
so, very nice.
Thank you. Number 3, commissioners, for possible action to discuss and/or modify the rental fee rate schedule and discussion that the Civic Center adheres to the original assurances made to the Max D. Fleischman Foundation, which we went over last time. So, the letter is in there again with our history that Kathy got for us from the other Kathy Ancho. We appreciate that. So you have the rental rates currently, and you see from number 2, what it has been rented for and how it's been going, and the ones that we have been waiving on the nonprofit. So what is your pleasure?
Well, did you,
As of right now, we have just now started waiving the nonprofit. That was normally $200 for a nonprofit to rent the building, but since this has come up, I put it on the rental rates so that we can say, yeah, they get it free, as
So-
nonprofit status. And
Commissioner, we looked for the original policies mentioned in the minutes that we found, and, we talked, well, I'll let my secretary tell you what she did on this.
Jeannie Falzone. I spoke, well, I dealt with all of our elected officials, from the clerk to the recorder's office, to the assessor's office, to the treasurer's office, and talked to them because a lot of them had been employees back in the early 80s, and trying to get their recollection of what was going on back then. I spoke in depth with Kathy Ancho yesterday, who gave me some more names of people to talk to regarding this stuff. When Kathy Ancho Senior left the Civic Center back in 1988, she left file cabinets of meticulous records of everything that happened with the entire Civic Center. When Rogene Hill took it over, she questioned Kathy about the records, and Kathy mentioned she'd left them there, and Rogene said they were all gone. Every piece of paperwork that had anything to do with the original Civic Center construction, the grants, everything was gone. Kathy Senior was sick to her stomach when I told her this yesterday, that we have nothing to go back on as far as what assurances were made. 40 years ago, people's memories remembered differently, so I can't say yay or nay, and I'm not knocking these people because I think very much of them, but I went back and Googled the Max D. Fleischman Foundation, whose grants were mostly given so that places would have libraries. That was one of the assurances that had to be made, is that there was a library in the building. And I can only tell you because that's the basis of part of the foundation. I haven't found anything else regarding, yes, they supported the performing arts and stuff like that, but, and that's who eventually took over the Civic Center board, was the Performing Arts Group, until it kind of went by the wayside, so there never really was a Civic Center board to speak of. So I guess you guys will have to try and figure out if, how you want to do it. It's up to you, the commission, the county now, because we have no written proof or that I can find, and I will look further. I know we have lots of buildings throughout this county, throughout this town, that maybe them file cabinets are there somewhere, but I guess we can't really depend on what happened 40 years ago because we don't know what happened.
And I can test at, in 2000, when Debbie Anderson and I were put into the Civic Center, as part of the Parks and Recreation and stuff, we had no files at that time. What I did find when we were there in the filing cabinet was the plaque that said Fleischman was donated, and that was the only thing I had found that concerned that Civic Center, and I still have it. I still have it, and I had put it and another one up on a wall, and then that one got taken down for whatever reason. Of course, that's the storage room now, but I still have, I found that in the filing cabinet. So as far as those records, we never seen them either
So
in
Commissioner,
2000.
to sum it up, in 1979, the county commissioners did adopt the first policies for the Civic Center. Unfortunately, those policies have disappeared.
You know, this is the same thing that happened to us last term with the rec center. There were big file boxes of records that had everything in it, and we had to start completely over because they were gone.
Well, and I realized that the Flashman Fund started off with libraries, and because I researched countless hours as well, but they also did other things that were civic-minded. And I contacted UNR because they were the original ones that helped start the library, that huge library for UNR. But they also helped the beginning of the bluing of keeping Lake Tahoe blue. They did college scholarships, so they've done all different types of things. But yes, their main concept was for libraries and to make sure that those libraries stay intact. So,
We've kept the library intact.
oh no, absolutely. So I'm not disputing that at all. My thing is still going back to the civic thing, and I can stand on this box and holler all I want, but it's a civic and it's for the community. So for nonprofits, things that are nonprofit or for government, I don't see why we would charge those organizations or the county for that. But things like Newmont and things like that, absolutely, we would have a fee schedule.
I agree. This is probably the 10th time that I've talked about this in agreement. The only thing that I have a concern about is I think we still need to have a deposit
Oh,
because.
Absolutely, no, that's not
Okay,
even debatable.
Because,
Because things get ruined.
when Paula was running it, she talked to me and she told me they'd lose 10 beer pitchers a night.
Oh, no, agreed.
Knives and forks and saucers and coffee cups, I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, and I agree that there should still be a deposit on anyone who utilizes it just because of that, for damages and
Well,
things
since
like
I've
that.
been in there, we haven't really lost as far as any of that. My thing is damage to the building, and we've had a couple little incidents there, but nothing, drastic. But one of the stipulations here is, all of our funerals, is free. And they do a $300 deposit. Now, if they have alcohol,
Yeah, that's
then
where we
it's a
have problem.
$500, but then they also have to rent as if it's a private party, so it's a $500 rental and a $500 deposit. So that's one of those fine lines, of what we get free and not. And the one that has just come to me again, the Geological Society, I told them, I said, if you are with a 501c3, nonprofit, then you will get it free, but you will also pay a $500 deposit because they're having alcohol.
Yes,
So I don't know the difference between, should they do $500 rental? But they don't have, what they're thinking is their nonprofit status is a W-9 tax exemption. They don't realize that's not a nonprofit status
Ted,
as
do we
far
have
as
to-
that, because I'm now going after, when they tell me they have a nonprofit status, I want a copy of it.
But
Yeah.
And it goes into my file.
So what do you do with like the quilt guild or when they have the fair where they're?
That's another thing I wanted to bring up. Okay, so, it's been a big to-do with Paula getting, everything free when she puts her 2 events on, and I can understand this. One of the things is I have a group in town, they're not quilters, they're crafters. And they would like to, use the Civic Center one day to set up all their little, craft booths and have a craft fair for the community and stuff. And they would like to know what they have to pay. They don't mind paying a deposit, but they are bringing like a service to the community in a way, but they're still also gonna make some money, with their crafts. And so, same way with the Quilters Guild, it's the same thing. In the past, when Robin and I came in, they were told that they only had to pay $100 a day. That was set up with them through Paula, and I thought, well, but they still don't have a nonprofit, and they would do their deposit, and it works great. I mean, they're very, very good. And this is another one. They're quilters, and they put on a beautiful show, and we have some vendors in there. People in town can come and buy, and at one time, before we had our quilt shop here in town, it was kind of hard to, and I'm a quilter, so, one of those things. So it's these little things now that are coming up. who pays and who don't. I myself, $200, you know, even with a nonprofit status, 200 I didn't think was bad, but with the Fleischman saying that if they were nonprofit, it was free. So
But
now, there's where I need the guidance now, guys.
Well, nonprofit, I'd agree, and would have to agree, if they're nonprofit and they're serving alcohol, I look at that a little differently, is that they should be and you guys might disagree, they should be charged, if they're serving alcohol at a nonprofit. It's just, there's just a little bit of a different twist thrown on that. And I believe they have to be a 501c3, and if they're not a 501c3 and they're like a craft that we have some kind of fee, it doesn't have to be astronomical, but they aren't a 501c3, but for like a craft
And, you
fair
know,
or
with
something
your
up there.
501c3, you know, and I'm with the Bass Club on that one. We got our 501c3 again, and we do serve alcohol, you know, and that's one of our big money makers, you know, for our kids. So, and with your 501c, it's $200 if you're serving alcohol like that. So, you know, it goes back to my funeral. I just had one yesterday, and it's been free for funerals so long as they don't have alcohol, but they pay a $300 deposit, and I kind of look at that of who's doing the funeral and who's not. We had one with Green. She wanted to serve alcohol, and it states in here, if you're gonna serve alcohol, it's not free. You're gonna pay a rental price, you know, because we all know what alcohol does to people. Especially funerals and weddings, it can get, you know, just a little out of hand. And even in our Bass Club, and I mean, we've you know, done several things too, so it's one of those fine lines, guys, of what we need to do, and maybe we can outline it and have it in black and white, and so people don't start getting after us again.
I guess one of the things I'm kind of curious about is making that differentiation between free as long as you don't charge alcohol.
Yeah.
I can see paying an additional deposit. I don't really think that that's a justifiable reason to charge them.
To charge them rent.
To charge them rent. And,
Right.
and I think the same thing goes with your 501c3. Now, I do have a question regarding that. So I know there's different 501s.
Yes.
Why just the 501c3s?
Well, I think
501c3 actually is the full designation of nonprofit. Other ones that are 501c, yeah, all
I
all
have one in
kinds of
town that's
numbers.
501c4,
Right,
so.
but they're not looked at as totally nonprofit.
what? Sorry.
There's
That's correct.
a lot of different areas, but that's the only one that is truly for the community or for the betterment of another entity that gets all the money.
501c3 is the one that the statute NRSs allow us to give them buildings, to give them free passes, and the other 501s, we are not allowed to do that. We have to find another way to do that.
And the reason why is because the NRS has not caught up with our tax code
Yes.
on those. So understand it is not, our NRS is, because I'm doing a ton of research on this, because I didn't understand. I wanted somebody to make me understand the difference. And the only reason at this time is because they've updated the tax code and have not updated the NRS to reflect that.
Okay.
So, these people, the federal government's giving out this tax code saying, yes, you are a nonprofit, but our NRS is not recognizing it because they have not updated it, because nobody's brought it to anybody's attention to have it changed.
And I
So-
never knew there was a difference until I have one group here in town that is a 501c4. She said, Rita, we're different. I said, okay, so then I came to Liz and everybody else saying, what's the difference between 501c4, and there's 5 and 6?
And our auditors, because I asked our
So,
auditors too, since
yeah.
they're the ones that take care of our monies, and they said truly that on the C4s, there's really no difference. But the NRS states 501c3, so
Well,
Okay.
actually, but there is a difference. If you read the IRS code, there is a difference.
They have not changed the NRS.
No, I'm not talking about NRS, I'm talking about the IRS. Their tax code that they give their communities are done on different things, whether they have paid staff, whether they.
Oh, that I understand, and I respect that, and I
But I'm
understand
saying,
that.
forget the NRS right now, cause you're saying that's outdated. But we're saying we're going with a 501c3, which is totally nonprofit. Now, my question is, the deposit, are they all refundable deposits?
Yes, they are, if, when, and I do it, when they rent the building, I ask for 2 checks. One for the deposit and one for their rental
Okay,
on it.
so we come in and I'm serving alcohol, and let's just say we didn't ask any extra, just the extra deposit.
Mhm.
Now, with that, perhaps we have some other items, where they, spill all kinds of alcohol or whatever all over. Your cleaning is certainly a lot more when alcohol is served than when it's not.
It can be, so far, we've been very, very lucky since I've been back in. They clean up and they clean up quite well, you know, to where when I come back in and do my check through everything, everything is usually really good and all as far as cleaning. The main thing on my deposit, for me, is breakage. You know, you get a fight
Well, I
that breaks
understand
down.
that, but
Yeah.
I'm also, I mean,
Yeah.
you would naturally have them pay for something they broke.
Right.
My concern is the extra time it might take us to get it back in the
If,
ship shape.
right, if
So
we
does
did,
that
it
come
might
out?
not be enough, but so far I haven't had to hold anybody's deposits since I've been in.
Okay, with that, then why are we charging so much more if they're serving alcohol and it's a fully funeral or something that ordinarily would not have a cost to it? Is that something you might want to reduce or
Well, and like she
exclude?
said, then what she said made sense. I think that to try to not have a ton of different, costs, if you do the true 501c3s and, the ones that are serving alcohol, like funerals, that's the other one. The ones that aren't 501c3s, but they're funerals, then what do we do with that? And if they are serving alcohol, are we going to, charge them for it or not charge them? Or do we charge a higher, deposit possibly instead of I mean, I don't know, what's the,
Well, and then what I have found out is, you know, you charge that $500 deposit and they're real good about cleaning up because they don't wanna lose that money, cause
Mhm.
they will
There
use
you
it if
go.
I have to come back in and clean behind you. And they're real good about cleaning it up, and so what I do is I have a receipt and stuff, and I hand them back their check, and then I write on the contract that the cleaning was good, everything was the way it should be, and I handed their check back to them, they sign it that they received it, and then it goes into my files.
and don't they have to have insurance if they're
We
serving?
have insurance,
Anyway, so I
yes.
mean, so that's already in there, and most people have to put their house, use their house insurance.
Well, we have anymore, I check even in on their house insurance, because sometimes their house insurance will not, cover outside events, other than off their property. So now, they have to get me an insurance policy that will cover their event. And both of our insurance companies here in town have, you know, they can go to them, they get that insurance, but that's when they have alcohol. That's the only time they need that insurance policy is when they have alcohol along with a $500 deposit.
Okay, so let's see if we can,
I'd
get
like
to
to
the
make,
bottom of this, what you'd like to do.
I would like to make a motion that the Civic Center rental rates, as far as private events, excluding funerals, will maintain the same. Typical, or our 501c3s will be free.
Okay.
We will charge an extra deposit for alcohol, but we will not be charging a rental fee for alcohol for nonprofits or funerals.
For funerals. Okay. And that's basically what I've been doing, so,
So we're not gonna charge anything for funerals, period? And we're not gonna charge anything for alcohol for the nonprofits either. Or,
Oh, okay. So no deposits, for a nonprofit at
No.
all, rental?
no,
or-
no,
Oh,
deposits,
okay.
yes, but we're not gonna charge rental rates if they
Right,
serve
okay.
alcohol. So if they're free, they're free.
Right,
The rental, the deposits will be adjusted whether or not they have alcohol.
right, okay.
And the 501c3s will be
Okay.
free.
So basically what I've been doing, what the sheet that you've got in front of you is basically what I'll keep following then.
The only clarification we're making is that they're charging an extra deposit, yes, for the liquor, but not any extra fee.
Right.
And that was your concern.
Yeah.
And that is to be waived.
And your craft shows. What about that?
Okay, yeah, our craft shows like, they're a community, that's not like
Okay,
somebody
well,
coming in.
let's
Okay.
go with the motion where we have it right now. We'll start
Okay.
with that and we'll question another. Kathy, did you second that?
I'll second that, that's okay.
Okay, it's just the one item right now. If we're all clear, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Art?
I said aye.
Thank you, I missed that. Okay, now your other question is if they're community services, but they're
Yes.
not a 501c3.
They're not a 501c,
Okay,
but
and
they're
how much do we
community
charge
service.
now?
200, well, actually, without a 501c, it would be a $500 rental because it'd be like a private party coming in because it's not been clarified, but I only went with the 200 on a community service event, like the crafters coming in, or even the Quilters Club. I honored the contract that they had set up when we first came
That
in.
was $100.
And that was $100 a day, cause they have it for 3 days. And then, even the crafters, their community thing, even $100 a day
Okay.
for them would be,
All right, if they're not a 501c3, the question is, do you want to reduce the price to 100 for community events?
For
I'm good
community
with
They're not a
that.
money maker,
Yes, they're
like a
community
business coming in
Right.
to do
Yes.
something.
and they still pay their deposit
Right, okay.
on
Yes,
it,
I'm fine
but
with
that
that.
would be just,
Yeah.
So I guess there's, I mean, I definitely, I think this is a good idea, that we need to give these a break, but, you've got your crafters. We don't really have the time to sit up here and think of every possibility as far as what,
right. Mine is community, if they're coming in to,
Do a community service.
for community service. They might be making a little profit themselves and selling something, but they're there for the community.
so I guess the thing is, like I said, without, sitting here going over all the possibilities is, basically giving Rita the authority to make that judgment call as far as, your crafters, your quilters, that's it, I don't know what else, and we can't always be coming back.
Well, what we're saying, if it's not a business, if they're
Right.
not coming in to do, I mean, we do have.
Community oriented,
There are lots of contractors that come in that want, like our races that come in. They come in and they put on all kinds of shows and they make money. We're talking community events
Community
and,
people.
right.
no, I
and
understand that,
Civic things, so the point is, do you wanna reduce it from 200 to 100? Cause she's gonna make the decision on the others.
and I'm good with that, so
Okay.
I'll make that motion, and,
That'd be great.
Rita can make the determination.
All right, I'm seconding it.
Okay, Judy made the motion, we move from 200 to 100 on the community services per day, and everything else stays the same. Kathy seconded that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you,
does that
guys.
take care of it?
Thank you, Rita.
That makes it a whole lot nicer.
Good job, Rita, and thank
Thank
you for
you.
your timeline. That was very clear and very transparent.
Number 4, commissioners for possible action regarding the Austin realignment project and including an update provided by Summit Engineering. Okay, Larry?
For the record, my name is Larry Gruby. I'm the Chief Photogrammetrist and IT Director for Summit Engineering. Since I was last here, one of the critical issues was the Austin Resources properties, pretty much owned by Robert Hughes. That entity had been, was basically non-existent because they hadn't kept their fees with the state up to date. Tom Gallagher negotiated with Robert Hughes, basically got to a point where Robert Hughes was willing to go along with what we were proposing, but we have had issues with Hughes in the past, which included him threatening a personal lawsuit against me, but we've finally got Robert Hughes to understand that his best interest in Austin is to have his properties consolidated, eliminate his subterranean rights, which he's having to pay separate taxes on. Needless to say, about 2 months ago, Austin Resources is now restored. Now, once it became restored, that caused a little more revisions of maps because we had been working around the used property since he had no ability to sign. But we have, we did get revisions into Kyla. She turned those over to Bob Morley. We got the requested revisions from Kyla and Bob Morley, who is the county surveyor. In mid-September, we made all the corrections to the maps per those comments, and I have a set of the maps to turn into Kyla, of the revised maps, along with the flash drive of the PDFs. I have given to each of the commissioners today a diagram showing maps. Map 1 is done. Maps 2 through 14 are the ones that we have this set of hopefully final revisions.
Excuse me, I know you were in Austin. Did you drop one of these off in Austin?
No, ma'am. I'm going down to, I was there yesterday, and what I left at your office is the staking diagram, which it just shows, when you go around Austin now, you'll see a lot of lath with red ribbon.
Okay, so the one we're looking at now, you will be taking down this
I'm
afternoon?
going down to,
Okay, got it.
down to Austin, and we'll go to the senior center for anybody that wants to come by and see me. It'll be approximately an hour and a half after I'm done with this agenda item. I will be there. And anybody that wants to come by and talk to me about where they want their property lines to be situated, I will be happy to go over to their properties and put 60D nails in that we can pick up next week. Now, I talked to Keith prior to the meeting and got the commission schedules for the next couple of months. So on the 19th, we will have all the documents signed for parcel MRPMs. There actually is one parcel map there. 7, 8, and 9, which involve the Lonnie properties and Contrell properties. It's kind of that orangish polygon that you see almost right in the center of the map. It says parcel 19 for Louis Alani. And then over on the left side of the map is MRPM number 9, which is White, Austin Lands, Louis Lonnie, and the Scoggin Family Trust. And to the best of my knowledge, and I'll verify this with Kyla, I believe the owner affidavits are in on all of those, for all those owners. Okay, now what's going on with 2 through 4 is nobody has any issues with how we're breaking it up. The problem we have is Bonnie Mastretti died about a year and a half ago, I believe, and probate has not opened for her estate. So we have another situation where we have an entity for which we cannot obtain signatures. I've talked to Craig on multiple occasions about gotta get probate opened, there has to be an executor so you can sign. He says he's been in contact with his attorney, but the attorney tends to say, I'm in court, I'll get back to you. At any rate, I met with Carolyn Mistretti yesterday and said, Carolyn, this is gonna benefit your estate in the distribution of the properties after everything is resolved. So anyway, she made a commitment to get with Craig to see what we can do about getting this off square one, because 2 through 4 are.
Okay, is that the only one that's gonna hold you up? Does everything else look smooth from now on?
I believe so, but let me go on to what's going on around the elementary school, which is not part of these maps. These are for future maps down the road. So anyway, for the commission meeting on the 19th, we will have 7, 8, and 9 in for processing. 21st, sorry.
21st of November, you're talking,
On
okay.
21st of November. On December 19th, we will have at least MRPM 12, which if you look over kind of lower center, it's a bluish parcel with Alan Brewer, Alan Chamberlain in Lander County, which is the Gridley store. So I'd like to believe we're gonna have 10 and 11 in too, but we've been having some discussions with Phil Marshall, who is RPM Holdings, and going back a little bit, when we were trying to figure out how to motivate Robert Hughes to get Austin Resources restored, one of the possibilities was to get RPM to purchase land of Austin Resources. Phil indicated that he wanted to do a modular overlay somewhere to provide housing for ORMAT employees. We talked to Kyla and Keith about, hey, can we just throw together something, a real quick, for instance, to try to bring, try to get something that would bring Phil and Marshall and Robert Hughes together. I never got any response from Phil about what we've done, so I've got to revisit that, and that may affect the exact configuration of that MRPM. But per my discussion with Dee Helming yesterday, who is here, she seems to be amenable. She's representing her brother, Alan Brewer. She seems amenable to the way we have the parcel lines laid out. We will have those staked by the end of next week, so that she can review where the actual corners are in the field, so that one should be able to move forward. And then 12, 13, and 14, we think they're going to go smoothly, but we may do a little bit of reconfiguration, because one of those maps involves the property that that Ray Salisbury, that's where the hairpin curve is with the junkyard. We basically sent Tony Salisbury an email, because he has claims that he was awarded by court properties down here. And my last email to him, for which I have received no response, was basically, you need to come forward with the documentation, with court documentation that shows you were awarded these lands, so that we can either decide whether you're gonna get something or you're not gonna get something. As it stands right now, the only parcel that Salisbury owns in the hairpin turn is a very itty bitty triangle, and I mean really small, probably less than this area in front of us, in the middle of US 50. So in terms of record, he has nothing there. But in terms of the junkyard and structures, he may have some. We're trying to work it out. Hughes is acceptable to it, but we have no response from
My
Salisbury.
understanding is Tony has made this, since Ray has passed away, he's made this, this information to us, but he's had over a year to bring forth the documents, and he's done nothing. So legally, what do? Do we just continue on without it? I mean, if you've got somebody saying, I own this, but I can't prove it, what do we do?
If
they can't prove it, they have to do a quiet title action. That's what it amounts to.
Okay, but if he's not even beginning that, I mean, he's ignored us for over a year. We had the Hughes problem, we've got that settled, now we're into this one. And we're saying, he's ignoring us, he's been saying, cause I mean, his affirmation when he first came out after, Ray passed away was that I do own this, and Ray said he did. But if there's no proof, I mean, I know what they have to do to get it, I know they'd have to do quiet title, but if they aren't, and if they don't, how do we proceed?
Start notification.
Well, we'd send a notice and if at some point in time, we can make a claim for the property and do our own quiet title, but that's,
Okay, but
if we
I'm
don't
saying,
think we own it though.
what can Summit Engineering do? Just say, we are going forward without your information, without your proof of your affirmations, we are going forward with the idea that you do not own this. And let it go at that, and let him come back and see what he wants to do. Because you have to do something to make these people move. I mean, we've been at this Austin one for how many years? And we keep running into all the little problems that stop everything.
Hughes Resources was the biggest problem we had.
Yes, but that's, we're getting that one handled. But I'm
Yeah,
trying
that
to
one's
nip this
done.
one in the bud going, he won't answer him, so let's be a little bit,
Patsy, I haven't looked at this one. I researched Hughes at the time, but I wasn't even aware of this one.
well, I'm just saying, without researching, if we're saying, he's saying we can't prove it, he's saying he can, but he's not bringing the proof. What do we do with that scenario? That's all I'm asking.
Just send a notice, without looking at it, I don't know, I can't lay out your options. I'm gonna have to look at it.
Perhaps we better look at that then, so you can work with our DA on this, on what we need to go further.
Can we,
Counselor Arara, in other words, per record, Salisbury doesn't have anything here. He just has this little triangle out in the middle of the street.
when you say little triangle, do you mean 4U8 or 3U8? Or is it that number 1 right before the hairpin turn?
I don't have it drawn on here, but it's just, I believe it's in the curve just before you turn to the right if you're headed east.
So right there
Before
where
you go
it
down,
says
yeah,
1.
it's somewhere in there.
Right, I'm sorry, Kyla Bright for the record. It's not listed on the map, but if you could imagine just down where the purple starts coming in, where you're starting to turn right before the hairpin turn, it's a triangle down in the middle of the street there.
Well, how?
Is pretty much what it is.
Okay.
Is he willing to convey any interest he has to Lander County?
We did not discuss that with Tony Salisbury. I sent him an email, and I believe I CC'd Kyle Bright and possibly Keith, but I basically said, hey, if you have any title and interest in this land within the hairpin curve that your father occupied, you need to bring that forward. And we've had no response.
Well, we can certainly ask him to convey any interest he has without proof of ownership from him.
Well,
Then we can do something.
I think the problem you have is, you have Tony Salisbury stating that he has a claim to properties there. And we're just asking, whereas on record, he has nothing. And to the best of my knowledge, he hasn't been paying taxes on the occupied land, which, and I defer to you, Counselor, I am not a lawyer, but for either adverse possession or acquiescence and abeyance, one of the tests, in my understanding, is that you pay taxes on the occupied land.
Right, if you take by adverse possession, that's what you do, and you can lose land if you don't pay. the county can do that. But the easiest route is for him to convey any interest he has. Whether he has an interest or not, it gives us standing to proceed.
That's understood, Counselor, but what I'm saying is he's claiming he does have an interest here. I don't think he wants to give it back.
Larry, excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
so if he's not paying taxes on it, who is? Is anybody?
Hughes is paying taxes on it, because it's of record, it's Hughes's property, so he's paying the taxes on it.
Well, then Hughes can get it by adverse possession if it's.
So I guess,
and-
the situation here is Salisbury has no provable claim. And my recommendation is move forward with, until Salisbury decides to come up and say, here's the proof, is to move forward as if he doesn't have any ownership of it, because we don't know for a fact if he does or not, but to proceed. And if Salisbury comes back and says, here, but if he doesn't have anything to come back with, we're not gonna sit around and wait for him.
And Steve Molleth is the attorney we've been asking questions to when we get to something like this, is I can pose that question to Steve and basically say, hey, what do I have to do now to make sure that this is airtight? So,
If we get some type of conveyance permission from all possible owners is what I'm saying, which would include Hughes and Salisbury, and if Salisbury won't do it, we proceed around him with Hughes, because Hughes at least can prove that he's been paying taxes.
okay, well, we will move forward, and
Please do.
I will put it out to Steve Mollett to get his opinion on what the best way to proceed is. So at any rate, that pretty well covers all the maps that we've got in process right now. We're working on Bisbo properties that are at Fifth and Bateman, basically, and we've got a proposed breakdown for those. I'm hoping to chase down Chuck Bisbo today in Austin to see if he's good with the configurations. If he is, since he's the primary owner, there's I believe it's the Raleigh family owns a little parcel right up there at Fifth and Bateman. Hopefully, if everybody's good, that one will be coming in sooner than later. If we have any issues on getting the property resolved down here where we're dealing with Salisbury. But I think it's pretty safe to say that we should be processing a minimum of 2 maps a month. In other words, finalizing a minimum of 2 maps a month going forward.
That's where I wanted to ask a question, if I may. Again, Kyla Bright for the record, you had mentioned that.
Kyla, would you speak up for us, please?
You mentioned that you were gonna have which numbers? 8 and 9?
7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, and 9. So my first question is, are there any abandonments of other streets or things
Yes,
of that
yes,
that
there is, and
are gonna
that's-
be from 1 through 5 that may?
No,
Yes.
it's, basically it's 2 through 4 are all interconnected, and it's 7, 8, and 9, that's where they're separated out from 2 through 5. So, there will be abandonments and then dedications on the MRPMs.
Okay.
And we, basically, the way I'm planning on doing this is we're gonna send the Mylars to Bob Hughes first, to have him sign them, because they'll be out, they'll be out of state and out of our hands. And then once they get back, we have one more, trying to think the other owner that we have to send out to. Well, Scoggins fortunately lives literally less than a mile from Summit. So when we get his map back, we'll just call them up. Both brothers, who are the owners of the trust, both owners showed up within a week of being contacted, and they're very pleased with what's going on. Donna is, living in her house, and the Lannies, of course, are there too.
Okay, we'll go ahead with that and look for you on the 21st of November and the 19th of December with the rest, right?
Are you planning on having them in front of them for signatures on those days? Because they need to go through the planning commission, and we
Correct.
planned on doing those meetings in Austin.
Okay, probably what I should do is get with Kyla on this and come up with a
Yes,
schedule.
please
But
do.
we're prepared to move forward on finalizing 7, 8, and 9, definitely unless the Helmings have some, or the Chamberlains and Brewers and the Helmings have some disagreement with 12. And then 10 and 11 are hopefuls, but we also will be having other maps coming in because we've got not in process, but that we're hammering out at the moment.
Okay, and you are leaving right after this and going to the
Yes,
senior
ma'am.
center in Austin.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Austin, if there's anybody there that has any questions, Larry will be at the senior center.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for us to finish up?
No, ma'am, it just, around the elementary school, we've got a couple of lawsuits going, regarding the properties there. We've been advised by Steve Mollett to be very careful about taking any sides. We're gonna throw out one, concept that I tentatively had discussed with Keith and Kyla on doing a land swap to make everybody happy. But there's been a lot of misunderstandings between the parties involved. And fortunately, I talked to both parties yesterday, which is Pastor Charlie Vaughn and Mike Ratkovich. And it sounds like the litigation has turned more towards the title company due to the fact that what happened with the school was the Historical Society conveyed a certain number of lots to Charlie Vaughn, and then later on did help me here, Counselor Ted, is it Scrivener's?
Scrivener, yes,
Anyway, it was a deed of correction.
right.
According to Pastor Charlie Vaughn, he was not informed of anything until he got this deed that basically changed what he received. We did finally get an answer from Western Title that said that, hey, the lots didn't agree, and once again, I'm gonna have to defer to Counselor Herrera here. The lots didn't correspond to the assessor's parcel number named in the deed, but the lots are legal parcels that can be conveyed. So that's the problem you've got. So you've got a person who got a bunch of stuff, and there was even the northeast corner staked by Bob Morley, which tells me that Pastor Charlie definitely believed he got that property. And then it was taken away, and Mr. Ratkovich, Pastor Charlie did a lawsuit against Ratkovich, and then Ratkovich tried to do an ejectment against Pastor Charlie, and it's just getting way out of hand. But fortunately, when I talked to both of them yesterday, it's kind of like, hey, we're bringing pressure to bear on the title company. We have that entire area around the school ready to go, and then going back to the Bisbell properties, which are right across the street there. And if we can just get the school stuff defused, then that area will be completely cleaned up.
Okay.
So, at any rate,
Thank
that's
you.
our commitment to finalize at least 2 maps a month until it's done.
Thank you, Larry. We appreciate you coming to update us. And with that, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Austin? Thank you. Still AirMed, update from AirMed Care Transportation by Gina Fascinetti. Medical Air Transportation Services.
Hi, Commissioners. Gina Fasanelli, Membership Manager for Air Medcare Network. Keith asked me just to give you a brief overview of the partial municipal site plan that Lander County has in effect. And of course, we have one of our talented crews here to answer any operational questions and give you a tour of one of the helicopters if you'd like. The partial municipal site plan that you guys have covers all residents of Lander County. So if they're flown from Lander, they do not get balance billed. They're no money out of pocket for the people that live here if they have to take a flight. We are the largest membership-based program in the United States with over 3 million members and over 320 bases across the United States. Currently, how you have it set up with your site plan is that they can upgrade for $35 to the full coverage to be covered by all of our bases should they leave Lander County. We are gathering information. I just told him about a possible full site plan, which is what some of the other counties in the area have done, Elko, White Pine, and what that does is covers them for the whole footprint. So they're covered even if they leave that county. If any of our bases took them, they would still be covered for no money out of pocket. So what that does is keeps more money in the community. It not only protects the residents of the community, fiscally, personally, but also keeps money here because if they do have to take a flight, they're not sending thousands of dollars out of state, paying out medical bills as well. Does anybody have kind of any questions about how we work or the site plan?
Just a clarification, I thought I was following you, and then you said something and I wasn't sure. Okay, so we're covering all our Lander County residents, but we're covering them in the whole state of Nevada.
You're covering them in Lander County. Right now, what you guys have is a partial municipal site plan.
Okay, so if one of our residents is picked up in Humboldt County.
Then unless they have that upgrade, the $35 upgrade
Okay,
for the
so,
full footprint,
all right.
then they are not covered.
I did not understand that properly then, because I thought as a Lander County resident, as long as we could prove we were a Lander County resident, carried that ID, that we were covered with you. I knew we weren't covered out of state, but you're saying if I'm not picked up in Lander County, I'm not covered at all.
Correct, as far as, unless you have a private membership.
That's not the way I understood it.
That's not the way I understood it when we
Exactly,
bought
that's-
it.
Woo, no, we need to correct this.
No, it was just it's always been just Lander County.
Well, then we were misled because we believed it was Lander County
It was always
residents
just-
within the
It was
state.
always just Lander County.
Now, I knew they had bases out of state, and when they got the information, I know you could upgrade to be covered out of state.
Yeah, you can for the whole, so what it is either the partial one covers that particular county, so that if they're picked up in that county, they're covered, no money out of pocket. A full site plan, like I explained, like Elko and White Pine have, covers them for the full footprint. So if they were picked up by any of our, 300 and some odd bases, they would be covered.
How much extra is that?
Actually, he just barely talked to me about the new pricing on that, so that's something that I can do.
So if we
I'll
have
have that.
6,000 residents at $35 apiece.
Well, that would be for the upgrade. I have to take it back to.
Well, he said how much extra?
Yeah, is what it is right now, because they've already paid like a portion of it. So if you guys were to do a full site plan, what they would do is tell you what the full site plan would cost. It's not gonna be $35 a person, probably, the way that they're gonna do it. But I'll take that to them and get that information for you.
Please get back to us quickly.
Okay.
Definitely, and I just want to reiterate that what we have is not what we were led to believe. We've got 3 commissioners sitting here that we went through this process last year, we believed that it was statewide, that the extra coverage would be for out of state.
So, just for the record, I've never actually presented to a commission. I was contacted, by you guys to do a partial municipal site plan. So the contract that is recorded on file and stuff is exactly what you guys have asked for, and that's how it's always been in this particular county. Like, we could have done the full site plan from the start to cover them for every, all of our bases, the full footprint, but that's not, what you guys asked us to do originally. So I'll be happy to get that information for you, but that's where we are.
Absolutely,
As
thank
someone
you.
from the public that was involved in reading about this, I understood it the same exact way that these guys did. So I don't know if it's just a breakdown of communication on how the information got out to the community, because as a community member, that's exactly what I thought as well, that it covered within the state of Nevada.
Okay.
That was
Well-
Chris that presented at that time.
Oh, Chris Berg, okay.
The good news is you're here for the update and we caught it.
Absolutely,
So,
thank
we will
you.
move
And then if
forward.
you have any operations questions or would like to see another aircraft, they are here to show you.
So I guess the other thing that I do remember, was the Fly Me Home program.
Mhm.
And how much is that again?
So there's an optional Fly You Home program, people can add on there. Since they already have the basic coverage, the Fly You Home program is $134 a year. A little bit more than the emergent care because obviously, we can't bill insurance for that, so we absorb the total cost.
How much?
$134 a year
No,
covers
I
everybody.
filled
in the
it,
household.
when we joined this, I filled out a form, and I sent in $300, I believe, that covered me for like 5 or 10 years.
Mhm. So normally per household, it's $85 a year is what the basic price is. That covers everybody in the household. If you're 60 or older, that fee goes down to $65 a year. And then we have 3, 5, and 10-year programs that get even less expensive per year.
Then
So
that-
if you paid $300, you probably
That
bought.
program is for anybody in my house if they need to be care flighted, right?
Correct. It's, yep, it doesn't have to be a
Even
relative
if
or
they're
dependent.
visiting?
If they live, no, if they live in your household, they're covered.
Live.
Yes. It's not for people visiting your house. It covers everybody that lives in that household.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to bring this lady back and,
When she gets me the information, I'll give it to
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, safe flying.
Did you wanna see the
Yeah.
helicopter at all?
Want to see the what?
The
Aircraft.
helicopter, the
They brought the
they have
aircraft,
here
so we will-
to show you.
brought the helicopter.
Is it
Yes, let's,
the same one you
let's,
brought last year, do you know?
okay, we'll go ahead and take another quick 10-minute break so we can at least see the helicopter. Okay, you guys can't come, I'm sorry, in Austin.
They took the time to fly.
And going into number 5, planning for discussion only, information and presentation regarding the Nevada Main Street program, presented by Patricia Herzog, the Director of Rural Economic and Community Development of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, which is fondly known as GOED. Welcome,
Thank you.
and thank you for waiting.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present today on the Nevada Main Street program. I'd like to start out by congratulating Kyla Bright for all of her hard work over the past year in research.
Okay, yeah, see, we're recording, but they can't hear you, so you have to talk really loud for us.
Okay, sorry about that. So I just wanted to say that Kyla Bright has really stepped forward over the last year to collect so much information about the Main Street program and to see what it would take to bring that to Lander County. Over the past year, we've had many meetings to talk about the program, and I've presented this to the LEDA board members and also to the local Chamber of Commerce here in Battle Mountain. Kyla also participated in the National Main Street Conference that was held earlier this year. And that's where all the main streets across the country get together to share their stories of how they're bringing economic development and historic preservation to their communities. So thank you, Kyla, for your commitment to the program. So I'll go ahead and start with the presentation here. See which way we go.
Patricia,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but you didn't introduce yourself for the record.
Okay, my name is Patty Herzog. I'm with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Thank you. And hopefully I can figure, yeah, it's not working. So I'm just gonna use the computer screen over here. There you go. And I believe you have this in your packets, and I'm happy to provide this for any of the members of the community that would like a copy of this presentation as well. So the Main Street program is a national program, and there's over 1,000 affiliates across the country. We support small business revitalization, historic preservations, It's also in urban communities as well as rural communities. It helps equip communities with the leadership skills that they need to support their community and also improve the quality of life. It's a commitment to that revitalization and combining the unique characteristics of your community. Battle Mountain and Lander County are different than any other place, and this program celebrates the unique aspects and assets of your community. It's based upon a four-pillar approach, and those four pillars are economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. This graph right here, I like this graphic image that shows what the Main Street program does. When it starts out, what Kyla's been doing is collecting a lot of information about the community, understanding what the market looks like. There's a possibility of doing a vacancy survey to see what kind of building inventory is available, and really understanding what the needs and the desires of the community are when it comes to the businesses that they'd like to see in their downtown. So after understanding what your market is in Lander County, then you move to developing your transformational strategies. These are based upon what the community would like to see their community be. And again, it's based upon those four different pillars. On the outside of this, we're looking at collecting data so we can refer back to those things and see how many vacancies we were able to fill with businesses, how much increase in tax revenues that the county was able to see as a result of the businesses that were brought in. So it's really a comprehensive approach to this. Not one of those pillars alone can support this effort. It's the combination of all of those working together with a community-driven transformation strategy that's really the unique characteristic of this program. A little bit about the four pillars. Design, this is really about getting our downtown communities in their physical form. You know, if we go to the gym to work on our bodies and make sure they're looking good, we also want to make sure that our downtowns have that appearance as well. So it's improvements to sidewalks, to facade improvements, to businesses, and it's getting it in top physical shape. The organizational pillar, this is where the community leadership side of things come into play. It's getting the board organized, it's hiring an executive director, it's working with the volunteers in the community to bring programming to your downtown area and support the businesses that want to come in there. Promotion, this is the rah-rah cheerleaders. Anybody who wants to spread the word about Main Street and what's going on in your community, this is where that activity takes place. And Kyla is definitely the cheerleader. You've already got a very strong one. And then the economic vitality. We all want to see our businesses thrive and create this economic district that really improves our economy and helps Lander County be a strong place, not only for the folks who live here, but also for the visitors that come through. It's a comprehensive approach again. It works best when it's seen as a framework. It's a very inclusive process, so we want to have lots of public members involved, whether you own a business or not, whether you dream of owning a business or not, or whether you have an interest in preserving your historic nature of your town. It is very flexible in how it's organized. Some communities have business improvement districts that they're able to fit their Main Street programs into. Other communities form 501c3. That is probably the most common format, and I think that's what Kyla is really working towards when it comes to what would work best for the community. But that's really something that's driven by the folks that live here. And then to be most effective, it's focused upon the outcomes and not the process. So there are these four pillars. but it's really up to the community how they want to implement the program, and that's why it's unique. We have a R&D program, rip off and replicate program with the Main Street. And so you might find a community that's similar to Lander County, maybe in Wyoming or Montana, and they've already gone through some of the challenges that you might be facing here in Battle Mountain, and be able to pull some of those ideas and rework them to work in your communities here. Again, the principles here, it supports that historic preservation. Main Street really came out of the National Historic Preservation. So this is something that's a strong aspect of the program. It's part of economic development. That's why it's seated with the Governor's Office of Economic Development to support this. It drives overall community improvement, a sense of pride in your community, and also a very attractive and vibrant economic district for people to enjoy. It's community driven. This is not a program that the state comes in and runs for you. It's the community that does that, and there is no finish line. This is a constantly working to improve and get better as we go, but there is no, we get to take our Main Street hat off and say we're done with this. This is something that we will continue generations to come, hopefully. This is a famous economist, and he says that there simply is no better way or cost-effective way to show the improvements there. And what I wanted to point out here is really when you're putting money into a Main Street program, it's an investment into your community. And these are our national figures in the 40-year history of the National Main Street program. These are the statistics that are collected. So we've seen close to $79 billion worth of investment into our communities. Quite a few of those rehab buildings, 284,000 buildings that have been refurbished, and then, you know, the net new gain in jobs and businesses there. This is just looking at a snapshot of the year 2018 and those figures. Nationally, they're looking at $4.2 billion of investment into communities and a net gain in businesses of 5,300. One thing to point out too in this slide, if you look at the very last line, the reinvestment ratio, this is what happens when a public entity puts $1 in, they see a return on that investment of close to $26. So that's what happens when we do this. And nationally, these are national figures. So this is in Washington. I just wanted to point out one of those other reinvestment statistics in 2015 and 16. In Washington State, they had 2.4 million to 22 million in tax revenues that they saw as that they wouldn't have seen had they not had the Main Street program. How did this program come to our state? Assemblywoman Heidi Swank brought forth the legislation that created the Nevada Main Street program, and it was re-upped in 2019, and so this will be an ongoing program with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. What do we provide at the state level? Well, we've been providing support and funding and helping get communities on board with the Main Street program. Currently, we have 11 programs throughout the state. 2 of them are urban, the rest of them are rural, and so, you know, it's been a very successful program. We have one nationally designated community in the state, that's Gardnerville, and that's why that picture's up there. And this is just one example of what the Main Street program has done in Gardnerville. They had this abandoned building that wasn't looking so good, and they decided to turn that into a art walk. And so that's artwork that's put up on an abandoned building, so it doesn't look like, you know, there's a vacancy there. So that's one of the ways that the communities work there. They've also got a community garden that they've worked on. They do flower pots along the streets and many different activities. It's the only nationally accredited program too in the state, so that's something to, they've been around for 10 years. What do we require to be a part of the Main Street program? Well, currently, Lander County's at the exploring level, which is just filling out an application saying that you have an interest in learning about the program. If you want to move to the affiliate level or a designated level, we would need to establish a public-private partnership. And so really this is where the public bodies step up and say, we want to invest in our community and we want to see the private sector invest as well. And I really like to use that term investment because that's what you're doing. You're investing in your communities to make it a stronger economy. You define what your Main Street area is going to be, where do you want to focus your activities, and here in Battle Mountain, you have a unique situation with 2 potential Main Street areas that you could focus on. Really, you want to look at a small area that you can show some real impact and then kind of grow from there. Down in Austin, it'll be a little bit easier to work on the Main Street program there since it's pretty compact and pretty clear where your Main Street area would be. You want to establish that Main Street organization, get your 501c3 and your bylaws all set and ready to go, and then hire your executive director. When you hire your executive director, this is a person like, if you think of a mall situation, the malls just don't have businesses in there. They have somebody that manages that mall. And that's really what a Main Street person does. They go out, they talk to the business owners, they make sure that there's consistency in hours of operation, and they're really out there to bring forth the information to the public bodies and also to the private sector to help bridge that gap and help people understand what the needs are of the downtown area. We also require that there's some funding for training and for volunteers to establish an office within the district and then, put together your budget, a fundraising plan, any work plan. Again, this is a public and private, so they will be required to raise money on their own, and this is a completely publicly funded program. Typically, this is the funding structure that you see. Between 30 to 50% of the funding for Main Street comes from the local governments. Then business districts usually pitch in between 20 and 30%. 5 to 15 is miscellaneous, and 30 to 40 can come from the community as well. So, it's really about events that are held. That's one way that Main Street programs raise their funding, corporate sponsorships that they get, and then the commitment of their local governments. What do you get out of the program? Well, the support services to build your organization. There are many resources available nationally to help get the program going. Training for board members and staff and community members as well. Business development assistance for those businesses locating in your downtown area. Marketing and promotional materials. The network, as I mentioned, that's a huge strength of the program. We also, at the state level, have a grant program and also scholarships that we've provided to assist with training. And then we come out to communities. We brought out our national consultant, Kathy LaPlante, and she's been to Wells and Lovelock and Ely doing training with communities. And she stopped here as well. One thing too, I'm really proud of the Main Street communities that we have in our state. Starting in January of this year, we were able to offer $100,000 in loans, or not loans, but grants to our Main Street communities. And we were able to fund each of their requests at 100%. The community of Ely received a $35,000 grant to pay for wayfinding signs that they put up and a complete branding guidebook, so that will take them forward. They're using that logo that they developed, and right now it says Ely in the center, but they're able to use that for McGill or Ruth as they move forward with Main Street. So that's one example. Winnemucca also received a grant for a historic book to be published about their downtown. They received about $8,000 for that project. So there will be more of these grants coming forward through National Main Street. I applied for a revolving loan fund for facade improvements on businesses, and that program would allow for, if a business owner wanted the facade improved, they put in 50%. This loan would be for 50%, and then the business owner would pay that back over 3 years at 0%. And then as it's paid back, it's re-lent out, and other facades get improved as they go along there. So that is the overview of the Main Street program. And I'm just pointing out this last slide here. We will be going down to Dallas in May for the National Main Street Conference. I would encourage any of the commissioners that would like to attend that to please contact me, and we can see about getting a scholarship to you so that you could attend that. Kyla went last year along with a couple of folks from Newmont Mine at the time to participate in that last March. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
How many businesses have you spoken to in Battle Mountain about this?
I presented at the Chamber of Commerce.
Because I don't see any business people here today, so I'm just wondering about their level of interest in this program.
I've gone to a couple of cities who've done this project. Albany, Oregon is one of them. Beautiful what they've done. And it's almost, you smile when you go through the area that's been done. The other one, and I know this is a huge city and you wouldn't think that, you think that the city would be taking care of this, but Boston, Massachusetts had a huge program, and it's not only did the city buy in onto it, but when they got everything done that they wanted to do, and the city put in as far as like law enforcement, you can walk up and down the city in Boston, around Fenway Park, all around that area, and you don't have to worry about people being scared at night at 11 o'clock at night to walk in downtown that city, because they bought into these programs. The city bought in. They got the law enforcement. They cleaned up the areas, and they're absolutely beautiful. And there's a lot of old time history, like their pubs and things like that they went through, and they're absolutely beautiful. So I commend the program because it really is for the cities that I've been into and seen it, they're gorgeous.
I would like to answer Art's question.
Could I?
Yeah,
respond
please.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your comments. I would like to point out we have this network nationally, which you point to some really great Main Street programs across the country. Laramie, Wyoming is another one that has a really great Main Street program. But not only is it this national network, but Kyla's been able to participate with the other communities in Nevada. So it's not one of these things like you're doing this out on your own. You're able to draw on the resources of the folks working in Wells, of the people working in Lovelock. We had a meeting a few months ago, end of August, I think it was, in Gardnerville. And we pulled together all of the leaders that are working on their Main Street programs, and we took a walking tour to see what worked in Gardnerville. They've been doing this for 10 years, so they know some things, and they have a new executive director right now, and he took us through to talk about where they started from. And then we had a roundtable discussion where we were able to kind of share what are successes, because, I mean, it's really a new program, and we do have a lot of successes to share. But also how to support each other with some challenges. you know, what are we gonna do about fundraising? How are we gonna get an executive director that's really focused on our communities and wanna make it work, so.
And I think that in some of the smaller areas, they're thinking that it's Big Brother coming in there and telling them what to do. And that's where I think the misconception is that we're not here to come in and take over and tell you how to run your business or how to do your business. If you don't wanna be involved in it, you're not involved in it. But we want to make your business as profitable as possible, so we can get people through your door. But we're not gonna tell you how to do that. We're gonna throw out some other ideas, and you have to say, yes, I want to do this, or no, I don't want to. I wanna leave my purple building with big flowers on the front of it that way, well then so be it. But here are some other ways to get some foot traffic through your door. And the one in Albany, like I said, that's just that, it's a fun little community you walk through. Even the little, you know, the places that are only open for breakfast. I mean, you see them and they're fun little places that you go into, and hugely help the foot traffic in their doors just from what it looks like on the outside. So, nice program.
I appreciate your comments and thank you very much, Commissioner. If I could share one other example, and this happened just recently in Ely, they had a Main Street mixer. And what they did was put a sign over one of their vacant buildings. They just put a sign over it and it said, most eligible building in Ely. And they had snacks and folks came in there. The landlord that owned the building talked about what he kind of envisioned in that space. And community members also talked about what they'd like to see in there. They took pictures, they talked about what kind of ideas they had, and it just to spur some activity and some creative thinking about what it could be. And again, like you said, it's not a matter of saying this is how it has to be done. That was their own idea they came up with.
And it's community-wide. It's what they want to do as a community. It's not us telling them what they have to do or what color they have to paint their, you know, it's just, these are some ideas. What do you think is going to work for your business to get, you know, more foot traffic through? So, like I said, nice program.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Do you mind if I touch on how many businesses we've spoken to?
No, please, go ahead.
Okay, so she actually came down September 11th and presented to the business owners that attended at
How
the
many?
chamber luncheon.
How many?
I have a list. I'm
Okay,
pretty
I'd
sure
like to see
we
the
made a
list
copy of
because
that.
the people I talk to, they don't like the idea of government giving businesses money. Okay, business owners have told me they don't wanna see people getting grants, or they don't wanna see loans, because what if the business fails?
So it's not, I mean, yes, it is a public-private relationship where the 501c3 would be asking for funds, but that wouldn't be, let's say in the MOU, you would say this money that we're going towards towards this 501c3 would be to pay for the director or whatever. That doesn't have to. But either way, the businesses that I spoke to, which were a lot of our Front Street businesses, including some back here, the newer business area, they were interested. A lot of them would like to sit on the board. They'd like to get more information about it. One example I have is someone who has been trying for years and years and years and years to do their front facade. However, that is $500,000 to $1 million of money that they just can't at that time. So where Main Street would come in to help them out with that is in the grants or is in the revolving loan funds.
And you're saying that if we put a new front on stores, we're gonna get a $24 return for every $1 we invest. Now, I just wanna mention Elko. Elko spent how many millions of dollars? You're not getting people off of I-80 when they're traveling to Salt Lake City or back east or to the west. You know, you got all this iron art, steel art, you're not gonna get people off of the freeway. I read a newspaper article the last time this thing came up that people would be buying suits to promenade up and down Front Street on the weekend. Oh, it was in the paper, Kyla, don't shake your head.
Oh,
It was in the Bugle.
I don't doubt that it wasn't in the Bugle. I shook my head because that's not the goal.
Well, bringing people in town is the goal. And the
Yes.
way you bring people into town is with events. Events bring people into town.
So on that, that's kind of one of the larger areas for this 501c3 is all the events that we do need to have to be able to raise that money to reinvest back into our community. The money that comes in from the events that we host, so all the booth fees, all the, if we do whatever thing, something, a cook-off, anything like that, the money that goes into that pot comes back out into your community to paint the fronts, to help with roofs, replacing roofs,
When
to
we
help
have
with replacing your
events-
signs, to make your front street look better, look appeasing, where people don't just blow right on through.
I live
So
right
it's
off of
both.
Front Street, and I could give you a
together.
list of 50 businesses that have sprung up and died. And you know why?
And that is
Because
how we're
we
here.
got an off-ramp. And now everything is on Elquist. That's where the business is. The only way you're gonna slow people down is if you have one-way traffic, or you go back to or to facing the curb to
So-
slow people down. That was the one recommendation that I got from the business people.
So this is something that has been said to me as well, and that's what I'm saying, this group is here for. That they raise the money for that. That way there's not people coming into the county or going to NDOT hollering at them saying, what are you gonna do about this Front Street? Main Street can help with that transition and help with the funding. If we wanna bring it back to just two one-way and close in, make wider sidewalks, put some benches out there with some trees and lighting so it invites people to stay sitting in those benches in front of our businesses, then that's something that Main Street can help with. That's something that we can help provide. And that's what Main Street's there to gather that information in, bring it in, and actually implement it without it having to set on just the business owner's shoulders or just the public sector's shoulders.
That's a completely different view.
Well, and the one view I have, and from the different people that I've spoken to, is the pride of your community, of what it looks
And the
like,
ownership
and the ownership of it, because the pride of what the community looks like. And you may not get 1 million people dropping off the interstate, but when they come through your community, it's a beautiful community that the people who live here can be proud of. I want to be proud of when I go down the street that of the community that all these taxpayers pay into, that our community, that we did an effort, and not Big Brother doing it. It's not a Big Brother, it's not the government doing all of it. It's the community saying, hey, this is where I live, this is where I raise my children, this is why my grandchildren, and I want to have a beautiful community. And that's kind of where the bottom line is, just the pride of our community.
Well, I think you're talking about aesthetics, and aesthetics are up to the individual. I happen to love Lander County, I love Austin, Gilman Springs, Kingston, and especially Battle Mountain. I think it's beautiful the way it is because of the people and the hard work that people put in. And when you start talking about taking tax money away from events and giving it to private businesses, that's bothersome.
And I'm not disagreeing with that, but we use public, not that I'm saying to dump all the public money into this, that isn't absolutely, and I don't want that taken out of context. But when we put public money towards other things that we're trying to build up, it's the same idea. We're trying to, these events, we give them X amount of dollars to try to get people in their door, and they fail. And these things happen all the time in Lander County. We've gotten, long before I sat on this board, but been living in this community, we give X amount of dollars to different events and things in town to try to get foot traffic in the door for them, for their businesses, and they fail. So it's like kind of a catch-22. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have. So if plan A doesn't work, then let's try plan B. I mean,
When I talked to some of the business owners, they said that they love the events, the baseball games, the football games, all these things, because that's where they put heads in beds, and that's where they sell meals. I don't want that money taken away from the business owners and given to other business owners.
Two
That
separate
money is
projects.
taxable and it needs to go into the general fund. It needs to go into the,
If I could
Kyla?
if I could clarify.
Go ahead.
Commissioner, this program, you're not taking public funds to give to any specific business. If a public entity chooses to participate in the Main Street program, which most of them have public monies involved, like the slide shows, 30 to 50% of the funding, and that can either be in cash or in kind. So for instance, in Gardnerville, our longest standing and nationally accredited program, the town of Gardnerville offers office space. And then that way the Main Street program does not have the expense of paying for office space. So I just wanna make it really clear that none of the monies in Main Street are going directly to a business. It's going to support the Main Street organization, which supports your downtown businesses as a whole. It's not directed individually at anybody. And most of that funding does go to hiring an executive director who is working with those businesses so that the elected folks and the community members understand the challenges that they're facing. And hopefully is able to provide some resources so they just don't shut the door. That possibly they can give them programs, they can connect them to other people to help them be able to keep their doors open. To your point about events, that's why one of the pillars of the Main Street program is promotion, and the events are a big part of that. So again, I'm gonna go back to Gardnerville. They just recently had one of their longest standing and most popular events that they do is the coffin races. And, you know, it's a thing they do every fall. And that's a huge fundraiser for their community. And people come, they decorate, they had 3,000 people turn out for that. Another event that they did in combination with a pop-up business that they have there, the Eddy Street Vintage Shop, held a craft fair this summer. And for every ticket sale that went in there, a $5 ticket sale, they generated $5,000 for their Main Street program through that. So I agree with your comments about events. That's part of the building of the pride that Commissioner Ancho spoke to. It's not a one solution here, and again, you know, it's up to the community to determine what their aesthetic is and what they want their community to look like. Nobody's coming in to dictate that.
Sisters Oregon has a quilt show once a year that is, and it helps raise money, but a quilt show, that town is so, you can't get a room on either end of, you know, in Oregon to that city to get, there's so many thousands of people, women mostly, that come in for these quilt shows. So, and part of the proceeds go to different things within their community, and it's the same idea. I mean, it's a quilt show that started out this big, that is, you know, anybody who's into quilting knows that, and it's almost like you have to get a ticket to be able to get in, because has become such a huge phenomenon. So, but I mean, it's a moneymaker, and so just different ideas like that. That city makes, I don't even know how much money. Over that 3 day, it's over a 3 day weekend, and it's beautiful what they do with it. So I've seen some of the different projects that have come out of these and it isn't the big brother, and I think at first the misconception of that truly is that the government's sticking their nose, but it has to be the community has to buy into it, and if they don't buy into it, then it goes into absolutely nowhere. So, and business owners, if they don't want it, we can try as hard as we want to have this organization, but if the business owners don't want it, it goes absolutely nowhere. So that depends on the success, or is what the business owners want.
So I'd just like to say, Ms. Herzog, thank you for your presentation, and Kyla, you know, you got a lot of heart into this, and I want to thank you for that, and for all your efforts, and the good work that you're doing on this, because it does kind of open our eyes and give us really good thoughts of you know, possibilities. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can the community talk, or I didn't know?
You want public comment?
Sure.
Come on up.
Come up and
Absolutely.
I'm working a little bit with Kyla.
I'm
but-
sorry,
Amy Nelson, sorry. And so I took a day off of work. The challenge is sometimes coming to these events where you have an interest, but you also have a full-time job. The thing that I wanted to also bring is I appreciate the quilt shows and I appreciate all of the events that come to town. But the real opportunity here in my mind is that Nevada Gold Mines, Battle Mountain is the hub. Battle Mountain is the central location for all of these mines. And I know from talking directly with folks, and I'm not gonna speak for Nevada Gold Mines, but I know from my communications that there's an interest in the mining Nevada Gold Mines to bring the hub to Battle Mountain and make this potentially the economic hub. Transportation-wise, it saves significant money from commuting from Spring Creek to Twin Creeks or Winnemucca to Phoenix or Winnemucca to Cortez. I think it's an opportunity. Part of that opportunity is the aesthetics, is the beautification of this town. So people want to move here. People want to invest in homes here and shave their
Aesthetics are in
commute
the eye of the
significantly, if nothing
beholder.
else. Pardon me?
Aesthetics are in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, and a lot of beholders don't see the aesthetics in Battle Mountain right now.
That's
Because
a shame.
some of us love this community in spite of some of its aesthetics, but other folks really, I mean, if you go to Gardnerville, if you even go to some of these communities that are investing in Main Street, they're so remarkably beautiful that people are willing to relocate, move their family, move their homes. And ideally, it shaves off their commute, so it's a win-win for them. Right now, the aesthetics are not drawing in folks from Elko, Spring Creek, or Winnemucca communities, but I don't think it would take much to do that. And Kyla has so much energy around this, and of course, I'm in full support of it and willing to jump in as I can. It's hard with the full-time job, like I said, but I do retire in a year and a half.
Yay.
30 years in
And you're
term.
looking for a job,
I'm not
right?
looking for a job, but
There
looking
you
to
go,
get
you want a
excited
job,
about.
that's why you're here. You
No, I
wanna
don't
be
want
the
a job.
executive director of Main
Lord,
Street.
no, I don't want to do that.
Absolutely.
No, heck no, but I do
That
want
fits your-
to
it fits your-
beautify this town. I was in Lita when I was here. This town needs beautification, and it's an exciting opportunity to compete.
And it's fun.
And it's fun, and it makes it beautiful, and it makes people not only stop, potentially stay and move here.
I was always told, if you're gonna get the family that, or the man that works at the mines to live here, that we need to attract his wife, to this community. So it's the amenities that we can give to those stay-at-home moms, the shops that we can get in our vacant buildings downtown with different opportunities for entrepreneurs here, our home-based businesses here, helping them get out of their homes and into the vacant buildings on Front Street. Opening up, we have 4 or 5 bakers here in town. Main Street can help them with funding and opportunity to get it out of their homes and onto Front Street. And I think if we have something to help our community people get out of their homes, PC places, people that fix PCs in their home, that fix phones in their home, that fix cakes and pastries and all of that, they don't need to be in their homes. They need to be in our vacant buildings on Front
And
Street.
they were just had a thing on the news, I was watching yesterday where Reno had, and I don't know what the name of that, when they bring there's 20 businesses and they bring it into one building, you know, and how well that is doing in Reno, actually, all these little pop-up businesses,
Right.
and they get so big and then they move out of that into their own building.
Yes, right.
But they start out in those,
Incubators.
yeah, into those, and it's kind of really cool to see how successful, because they start out in those small ones and they utilize each other for information, and then they're able to move out on their own. So that was very interesting to see. So
I'm done.
thank you.
Thank you.
So
You're expanding our visions, and we appreciate your
much appreciated.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna be moving on to number 6. Planning. For possible action to approve or disapprove the acceptance of a business impact statement or the motion, if approved, stating this rule does not impose a direct and significant economic burden upon a business, nor does it directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of a business. Therefore, we approve moving forward with an ordinance initiating the dissolution of the Lander County Combined Sewer and Water District Number 2, General Improvement District, and its Board of Trustees. I'll call on our district attorney to clarify this for us, because my understanding is, your research actually is in the backup, but we are not going to, make that designation right now, that it does or does not impose, that we should impose the business impact statement, right?
That's correct,
You just want us to
Commissioner.
go forward with it.
What I'd like to do today is, if you all for approve, of the business impact statement prepared by the staff, then I would ask that you, say, based on the business impact statement, that we approve moving forward with an ordinance initiating the dissolution of the Lander County Combined Sewer and Water District Number 2, General Improvement District, and its Board of Trustees. And then, if you do that, then as soon as this is over, Keith is going to have his staff or Sadie send out a notice, and we've done that up. And the notice will give the public notice that the county commissioners plan on making a determination that it does not impose a direct and significant economic burden upon a business, nor does it directly restrict the formation, operation, or expansion of the business. And that determination needs to be made at the same time of the presentation of the ordinance itself. Now, if there's not enough time for the publication before the next county commissioner meeting, we'd have to put it on the second one. And Keith's gonna find that out, when he sets up the notice.
November 21st is what we're looking at for the public hearing.
Probably, because I don't think there's enough time between
Okay.
now and the first one. And it will also, and I've had a small discussion with the head of, the Water and Sewer District 2. She's here today, and she informs me that she's going to call a meeting of the board and try to get the resolution to agree to this, which will make everything better. So if we put it on the 21st, that will give her more time to do this, and it will make it more efficient. Now,
Okay.
does that make any sense?
Yes,
Okay.
I think I have it. If we have talked before, if they would do a resolution, we would not have to proceed with all these legal
Well,
things that we
I'd have to
need
make
do.
slight changes to the ordinance, but when everybody's in agreement, it's a lot easier on our next, public meeting.
Okay, so we're looking at the public hearing on the 21st of November.
And the presentation of the ordinance at the same time.
Okay, the only thing that I would add to that, which was not in, I didn't see it in the information, I may have missed it. It talks about the exhibit. If we wanted an exhibit, a reference to it gives a reference to the rates, and it said, if we're going to hold the rates the same or change the rates, whatever we're gonna do, that would be in an exhibit.
Right.
So we need to put the exhibit in there also.
If we're gonna change, well, we should.
That we are not going to change the rates,
Okay, then whichever way you want to
right?
proceed, but
Okay, I'm just saying it needs to be in there. So, okay, so we're okay. What we need to do is just simply have the motion that we move forward with the business impact statement,
to move forward with the ordinance.
and the ordinance, both, right?
Well,
Because we can't do the determination of the business impact statement,
right,
whether we need to do it or not, until the next one
Right.
too, right?
right,
So we're, need the motion to move them forward,
okay, with both, yes.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Probably best to put it on 21st.
You gentlemen are being recorded, you know,
That's all right.
It's all right.
but you need to speak up instead of saying inaudible, inaudible.
We were wondering if there was any ambiguity in the motion, since it wasn't stated, and as long as the idea comes across that we are to move forward with both the ordinance and the business impact statement.
Right, that's what we said, to move forward with the ordinance and the business impact statement.
Fine. We're fine.
Patsy said it and I made the motion.
And the reference around that was that it would move forward until the 21st of November,
Okay.
when we would hold the public hearing and make that determination and look at the ordinance.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Sounds
there.
great.
Hope that clarifies it. Okay. Then we are moving on to number 8, which is correspondence, reports, potential upcoming agenda items.
Yeah, I have an agenda item. Since Amy came today, it jogged my remembering. I'd like to have a report from the courthouse people on where they're at with the old elementary school project or courthouse, whatever it is, and I'd like to see receipts where the money's been spent. $50,000 or $100,000 we put in that project.
Okay, we put on the old courthouse. I know we've kind of been postponing this, but I would like to see us go forward if the rest of the commissioners okay with our executive director's evaluation.
The what?
Our executive
County
director's
managers.
evaluation.
He's got a satisfactory. What do we need an evaluation for? We passed the annual mark. That's automatic satisfactory.
No, it's not.
We need to do
Um,
an evaluation.
So when is the next date that Brian was going to be here?
24th.
The 24th?
The
Sorry,
24th.
21st.
21st, November 21st?
Okay. So we'll move
So-
towards that.
So
Is there enough time for notice?
there is enough, yeah, definitely.
Plenty of time.
We may have to have him serve personally, but
I can't hear it. Hold on. Let me turn this up a little bit more. Okay, try now.
is, I'm not sure if it meets enough time for certified delivery, but there's definitely enough time for personal notice, and I would just like to make a comment on that I think we all know what the notice procedures are, and ask whoever's responsible or whatnot, get that process, please.
They were just questioning whether we had time legally to give him the notification of the evaluation. And it's almost a month, so we know we do.
Yes.
So,
And for whomever is responsible for that, to please move forward with doing that, is what
which would be your department, right?
Yes.
Okay.
To our,
Well, if you ask me to do it, I'd be more than happy to.
yes, we're setting the evaluation for the 21st of November, if we would give the proper notices to our executive director.
Absolutely.
Yes,
How's
thank you.
that?
That's great.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda? Also, let's see, we had some, we put on, we took off, we're waiting.
Opioid lawsuit.
Oh, the opioid, yeah, the opioid lawsuit, that needs to be on.
Will we get money from that if we join?
Yeah, we're already joined. We're joined kind of by default, aren't we? I mean, but, so that's the discussion is whether or not we want to.
Because I just don't see any pill mills and questionable doctors in Battle Mountain or Austin.
Actually, I have a full amount of the opioids that have been, the amount spent and the type of companies that are all involved for Lander County. I have the breakdown for that. But the key here is that when the counties came forward to sue individually, we said no. Well, there's a class action suit the federal government has put on, and also the state has put on. So we have to at least make a decision if we want to pull out of the class action suit from the federal government. That's what, we need to make a determination. Yeah, we need to make a determination, and that's what will go on, and I'll back it up with the information that you're talking about, Art. Okay. All right. With that, we will move to public comment for non-agenda item only. Persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend or make comments on any non-agenda item at the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner. The public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. Any other public comment?
I do. I wanted just to do an update on the railroad as far as getting it stopped here. I have spoken to one of the top people in the leasing department for the, having to stop both eastbound and westbound. And it might be a lot easier than we think it is. It falls under a lease. We don't have to do a spur. We can just have them stop. And it falls under, us going through a leasing program. So I have that ball started. I have both the BLM and, Congressman Amade's office on board for helping us through any, hoops that we need to go through, but it doesn't, from right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be nearly as complicated as we all thought it was going to be. So, that has been started, and I should be hearing within the next week or so about, moving forward with that. So I just wanted to give an update.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right?
Any other public comment? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. You have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye. And you all have a wonderful festivity day tomorrow and Nevada Day and the day off and all that good stuff.
Water and sewer, number 2, public hearing and acceptance.
So, Kathy, you and I are meeting with Sheldon,
Did you get a chance to talk to him?
right?